Welcome to Module 5. Got a lot of great stuff in here. Productivity. That's where all the action is. If there's anything there isn't anything. I was going to say, if there's anything more important in the economy, I don't know what it is, and neither does any other economist, because this is it. Yes, GDP is a major indicator that we use to see what's going on, but productivity is the name of the game. That is where our standard of living comes from. That's what determines everything is productivity. So here you learned what affects productivity, what factors go into determining our productivity, and our productivity determines our standard of living. Why do we have a higher standing in the United States and in Nicaragua? Because a worker in the U.S. can produce more in an hour than a Nicaraguan worker can. That's it. You've got to be able to produce it to have it, right? Okay, well, let's see. We've got let's dig in here. We got a lot of stuff. Video lectures. Oh, some good stuff in there. Productivity, the bright side. Yes, I just named the bright side. In the long run, yes. In the short run, there's a dark side. Yes, indeed. And speaking of productivity, the reason socialist countries are poor is because they have incentives in place that actually puts a kind of a damper on productivity. And anyway, hopefully you watched the ones on private property rights in previous module, and on capitalism versus socialism, where Paul Selma goes to Cuba. And you see the disincentives in place. Well, this is interesting in that for some reason, it's commonly believed that Scandinavian countries like Sweden are a socialist. They're not at all. They did go through a period. Well, Sweden went through a period, I think, in the 70s and 80s, late 80s, early 80s, somewhere in there, where they were into socialism, and they almost went under. They nearly went broke, and since then they did some reforms, privatized some things, and lowered taxes, and so on. And now they're, in many ways they're more capitalist than we are, as far as free market and incentives and that kind of thing. They do have a high level of a social safety net, but they have very high taxes, and something we don't do, they tax lower income heavily. So there's no real redistribution of income in the Swedish system. Well, anyway, that's just a short little thing about that. It's kind of interesting. Um, but it all comes down to how it affects productivity. Some systems tap into it, some systems actually depress it. Okay, well, what else we got here? Okay, I talk about a lot of stuff I've just said. Productivity is the key to everything. Oh, and speaking of socialism, why? Why is it so hard to get it to work? Well, actually, never has anywhere, but I don't know. I shouldn't say that. If you're willing to accept the trade-offs, uh, that's the bottom line. As you read that, there are trade-offs, and if the trade-offs are acceptable to you, then if being poor is okay, um, that's then who's to say that's not working? But anyway, that seems like I had something else to say about that, but that kind of explains what's going on there. Okay, well, homework, mind tap, nothing. Okay, I got an extra credit and a couple of extra credits. All right, that's it for Module 5. It's a very important module. Actually, it's not a very hard module, but it's boy, we're right at the heart of what is really important and what makes an economy work. Okay, see you next module.